Hello, my name is Neil Bull and I'm from winesdecanted.com. Today I'm going to show you how to taste wine. There's an awful lot of information out there on how to taste wine, but some of it is so simple that it doesn't actually tell you anything, and some of it is so complicated that it's almost impossible to understand. I'm going to hit the middle ground between the two, and I'm going to give you enough understanding so that you can make a judgment, then understand why you've made that judgment, but not so much information that you end up more confused than when you started. Okay, let's get started. First of all, the glass. A glass like this is ideal. You're only going to have a small amount of wine in the glass, but you need to swirl it round, so you need something that's quite a good size. Also, this one tapers in towards the top, and what that does is concentrate the aromas, so that's an ideal type of glass. So let's pour some of the wine into the glass. So you don't need too much, just about that much is fine. Now the first thing we're going to do is have a look at the wine. There's a few bubbles there, that's just from pouring, they'll disappear. What does it look like? Does it look clean? Does it look shiny? Is there a good reflection on it? That's good. If it looks cloudy, then invariably there's going to be something wrong with the wine. Next thing to do is just tip it to about 45 degrees and hold it against a white background. Because what you're trying to do is try to look through the wine to get an idea of what colour it is. And we're going to make a little comparison between the core, i.e. the main part in the glass, and the little bit around the edge, the rim. The core will show you the age of the wine. If it's red or purple, it's quite young. If it's starting to go a little bit tawny, then it's a little bit of an older wine. And the rim shows you the body. If the colour of the rib is much the same as the core of the wine, then that will show that it's quite a heavy wine. If you've got a little light rim, a little sort of watery rim around the edge, then it shows that it's a lighter bodied wine. This one's sort of medium. It's also quite a nice red colour, and it's actually quite a young wine. Okay, now we're going to give it a sniff. You can put this onto the table and give it a swirl that way if you're more comfortable with it, or you can do it in your hand like this. Okay, so what this is doing, this is allowing the alcohol to evaporate a little bit quicker, and as it evaporates it brings all the aromas up with it, and that gives you the chance to actually smell them. So get your nose right into the glass, give it a sniff. Now not too long, because if you leave your nose in there too long and you keep sniffing, you're going to overpower all your sense of smell. So just keep going back to it, doesn't matter, just give it another swirl and keep going back to it until you get some of those flavours and those aromas that are coming through. You can get a lot of sort of red berry coming off this one, that's really nice. But what does it smell like? Does it smell good, first of all? Yes, it does, it smells nice. If it starts to smell of damp towels or wet dog or mould or that sort of thing, then there's something wrong with the wine. This smells clean, it smells fresh. So what is happening here is that all these aromas are being collected in the nasal cavity. They're then transported to the olfactory nerve, which then sends the information to the brain. And the brain then starts to make all these connections. What does that smell like? What do I remember? Oh, I remember that's a memory of red berries, of vanilla, of spice, or whatever it is. But your brain is always processing that information, and that's an important part. So give it a good sniff. And just go with the first thing you recognise. Don't think, well, it's a red wine, I should be thinking it tastes of red berries. That's not necessarily true. It depends on the age of the wine and how those berries are going to develop. Are they going to be, if it smells of raspberries and strawberries, are they cooked? Are they confected, or are they really fresh? Does it taste of dark plum and dark cherry rather than strawberries? What else is there? Is there any sort of sweetness you're getting, like vanilla? Is there any spice? Spice comes through. Sometimes you can get such things as tobacco and cedar. They're sort of things that come from the oak when they oak a wine. So keep going back, having a sniff until you've got as much information as you possibly can. Right, now we're going to taste the wine. This is a very important part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fill my mouth about a third full, and then I'm going to chew on the wine. I'm going to really get into it, really get it all around my mouth. I want all those taste receptors picking up as many signals as I possibly can. Now, your tongue can pick up sort of sweet and salty at the front, acidity at the sides, bitterness at the back. The roof of your mouth has taste receptors in there, that's important. And your gums, you want to get it onto your gums, particularly with a red wine, because you have something in there called tannins, and you want to see how well integrated all these different things are. So let's have a little sip now. Now, something else I did there was I drew air in through the wine. Now, this is really important. Don't let anybody tell you it's pretentious, because it's not. What you're doing is you're creating an aerosol, and those tiny droplets of wine are finding their way into the retronasal passage, and they're going back up to that olfactory nerve, and that's going straight back to the brain. So the brain's processing all this information from your tongue and from your olfactory nerve. And it's just giving you a much better understanding of the wine. If you're in a restaurant and you're doing this, and people 4 tables along start tutting at you, you're doing it in a pretentious manner. But you can see how I did it just there. It doesn't have to be noticeable, but you'll just want to get as much of that air through as you possibly can. It's a really important part of the wine tasting process. So what we're trying to do with all these different aspects is discern the flavour profile of the wine. What does it taste like? Does it taste good? That's the first thing you need to know, and then you can carry on drinking the wine. If there's something wrong with it, you probably picked it up on the nose, but you can pick other faults up just by tasting it as well. Also, what are those flavour characteristics? Are they the same as what you smelt? Are you getting those raspberry flavours, the dark fruit that you picked up on the aroma, the spice, vanilla? There's so many different things, but stick with your first impression. Whatever it is you think you smelt and you tasted, stick with that. Don't veer off and say, oh, well, it's this type of wine, I should be tasting that, I should be smelling that. Stick with your own impressions, it's so important. The other thing I'm looking for is heat. Heat shows the alcohol content of the wine. And again, you know, this is about 13% wine, so it's got a good level of alcohol, but it's not overbearing. I'd just like to have another little sip. And this time I'm going to swallow it, because the back of the tongue is very important. Again, you're getting, is there any bitterness there? No, there isn't. So now you're ready to make your final impression. You've given you've looked at it, you've smelt it, you've tasted it. Now you've got to get your impressions down. I suggest just writing notes. Write all these things down as you're going on. And the more you practice this, the more you take notes, the more you compare your notes to a tasting note, an official tasting note, you'll get better at it and you'll enjoy your wine even more. So cheers.